Hey guys, so last time I did a video I was talking about the raised beds versus the hotbeds and what the hotbed does for your plants, but really what you're doing is you're creating a seed bed that you're going to take these plants and move them to your normal garden as the weather warms up. And when I was showing everyone the progress, I'll see if I can show you a little bit now. It's a little warmer on this side. It's actually pretty cold today. But everybody seemed to be really curious about a keyhole garden, and the principle of a keyhole garden is that you have something very similar to a hotbed, which is carbon and nitrogen layered in a round, large compost bin. But then you have this little pathway through the middle that goes to a cage, and in that cage you put your compost, which means that the nutrition from that little caged compost space in the middle is available for the roots of your plants that are growing on the outside without having to disturb the soil. So you can plant your squash or your tomatoes into the keyhole garden, but you can continue to add compost into the middle. You could use really pretty bricks on the outside and do it that way. I do have some bricks, but I don't have enough to really do a very good job at it. So instead I'm just going to use the wire that I already have that I was using for my compost pile before. We have quite a bit of shade. You see the tree right over here. We have the fence here, and that means that really the only spot I can put this that'll get any sun at all is right here. First things first, this is my feeding cage. So I just took and made a loop like that was big enough that when I put compost into it, it will actually have enough mass to heat up a little bit and break down. If I had done it any thinner, it really wouldn't.
Puerto Rico, esta bomba yo la dedico a toda mi gente de Puerto Rico, a la familia Fontanet, allá en Cupeato.
My little ones made me breakfast this morning, so I'm gonna go eat real quick and then I'll be back. I do want to put it in evenly around and then make another layer around and then make another layer around so that it is evenly distributed. Okay, at this point my focus is keep the shape round. Let it be long along the back and then skinny in the front. I need to keep it round. So again, I need to make sure that I'm kind of staggering how I put it in. Yep. mulch did a really good job when we had a couple weeks of rain, so that we didn't have a muddy mess back here. We had a pond in the front because we didn't have any mulch, but back here it stayed really nice. It didn't get muddy. I'm gonna leave a little bit of the surface mulch that's left over down so that we don't get, hopefully, too much mud. At the end, when I'm getting ready to leave, I'll bring a rake, and I will, in May, when we're finishing everything up, I'll bring a rake back and rake up all the last little bits of wood so that you won't even know that I was here. What you see is that the mulch, the compost, the carbon, it all breaks down really fast. You know, Rumpelstiltskin spun gold out of straw. But what amazes me is that you can spin food out of cardboard and wood debris, and then you can spin that into money if you want to sell it. It boggles my mind how magical hotbed deep mulch gardening is. Okay, that's about as much as I want to take off the ground right now. I have all the mulch for half of the backyard removed. I really don't want it to be a muddy mess back here. And I really want to leave the mulch that's around the hotbed and around the Keyhole Garden. I want to leave it where it is because we're going to have more rain. And I don't want to be walking on a muddy path. Everything here is at least 6 inches deep. It was where I knew I'd be walking most, so it's where I put it the deepest. So this is high enough. It'll probably decrease by half. But if what I'm putting into it is things like melons, then it won't make a big difference. I need to go open up the greenhouse. So I've run out of carbon. At this point, what I'm going to do is go get some of the boxes that I've already planted and move them here. The reason being, they're already planted, and I need to move those grow beds in front anyway. Having everything grow in one space means that all the chores happen in one space, all the watering happens in one space, all the harvesting happens in one space. So if you're in a rental, that makes it really nice because then you can kind of put that professional polish on the front, make sure it looks like a residential neighborhood, and then in the back you can kind of play with it as you will. What I don't want to have happen, and what I don't like about using a wire enclosure, is the stuff is going to fall through the sides, and it wastes everything that I've done. What I'm going to have to work on is making sure that my seeds stay in the middle, in the middle strip of the planting bed, so that as the outside kind of crumbles in and shifts, I'm not losing seeds out the side. It's why at home I used tin on the outside of my raised beds. It works pretty well on a straw bale bed to have just a border of a 2x4 around the edge and then cardboard underneath. So it would work fine here, but I don't have any boxes left. Oh, wait, I have them under the rabbit. So now the compost goes in here. It's easy to get to. You put the compost in here and it breaks down and it feeds everything. Because there is because there's duck and chicken manure on all the mulch that's in here, it will help feed what's planted in here too. But over time this will be the main feeder. But even in the center here, when you bring in your scraps, your food scraps and everything, you do want to layer a little carbon in there, otherwise it'll get stinky and stagnant. Okay, here is my kitchen scraps for the day. I have eggshells and cabbage and almond milk and lots of tea bags. So there's that. And then I have these little seed pods that had things growing in them, and then I forgot to water them, or I don't remember what happened, but they're not usable. The one thing you don't want to do is don't bang it on the cage, because the cage is flexible. It's not going to hold up. So now these chicken feeders that I had, sorry, I'll try and get on the other side. These chicken feeders that I had, I'm gonna go rinse them out and put them in recycle. No harm, no foul. It just meant I didn't have to buy feeders or waterers. And now the bed is ready to plant into. Yay! I love these kind of boxes. The reason is they're super shallow, they don't have anything shiny in them, and I don't know, they're heavy. They do a really great job. So if I'm putting in big seeds, this is what I want to put them in. And sorry, the wind's coming up. And what I have in them is rabbit manure. If you can see that, I had this underneath the rabbit hutches, so it's been peed and pooped on, which means that the bottom will break down very quickly. So, I want it to be in really good contact with the dirt around it, the wood around it. Let's see if I can turn this a little better. I want it to be in good contact. Now we've got bushes, we've got trees. So one thing that I am a little concerned about is if you have trees, is if you have a lot of deep mulch, you need ducks, because the ducks will keep the slugs down. Especially in a humid, warm environment. Even back home when I had deep mulch, I had slugs eating everything. Everything I planted was eaten by slugs, until what I did was I put ducks down on top of the deep mulch. The ducks would go through, and half of the ducks' food was slugs at that point. So the slugs would feed the ducks would lay eggs, and all of my garden survived. So I would be a little bit concerned about having this much deep mulch and this much moisture retention without ducks to keep the slug population down. So that's just me saying what my experience has been. Now that I don't have ducks in the backyard, there's reason for concern. All right, so first things first, I would like a little bit more manure in the bottom. And then on top of that, I want some more mulch. That way I'm not putting a whole bunch of really expensive potting soil on top for no reason. And usually I mix my own, but this time I have a bag that I was about to start seeds in, but I won't be here long enough to be able to do that, so I might as well just use my potting mix. I don't like this one. I prefer black gold. But it was what the Target had on hand, so it's what I got. I get my seeds from My Gardener. I do make a little money if you buy them. So just so you know, I have been planting with them for the last 2 or 3 years. I think I've been planting with them for 2 years, but I've used them on 3 gardens now, because I keep having to replant my gardens. So what I'm gonna plant in here is squash and melons. And the reason I'm gonna do both is because I want to see which one does best. I'm not necessarily looking to have like maximum output. I just want to see, will the plants grow? Will they be okay in March being planted out in a hotbed? And one of the nice things about having them in cardboard is that I can still pour my rabbit manure tea around the outside to heat it up. And again, I wish I had more of the mulch in the bed right now, because eventually I'm going to have to clean it up anyway, but I don't want to have muddy feet if it rains. The other nice thing about beds like these is that if you have like monsoon type weather where you have big rains that would ordinarily wash a garden out, Doug and Stacy from Off Grid with Doug and Stacy, a couple years ago they had that problem where they had so much rain that their garden was completely actually flooded. The water was over the garden bed, so they didn't get a harvest. When you have something this tall, rain and a lot of water, unless you have an actual flood where you have to evacuate, your garden bed will be just fine. Now, we haven't tested it against wind yet, so that is one thing that wind has not been. We have had wind, but not strong winds, and we haven't been through the tornado season yet. So even though, here, I'll see if I can show you. Even though that garden is really happy in there, I have it tacked up on the other side in one spot so that the hot air can get out. You can see there's quite a bit of wind. Well, actually that's more of a breeze, that's not a wind. There's wind, but nothing on the inside is being affected by it. They're all fine. A really big wind, I don't know what'll happen to it. So back home we have very strong winds. We have actually had tornadoes back home. Not like they have here where it's with some frequency. But we have very strong winds. We have windmills up on the hills around my house, and we are known for our wind. We're not known for our tornadoes. So I'm pretty sure that this will hold up against a really good strong wind. Pretty sure it won't hold up against a tornado. So the varieties that I'm wanting to do are the zucchini squash, black beauty. I'm going to try a couple of ground cherries, which are like a tomato. They're more like, what are they like? They're oh, what's it called? You put them in salsa. Tomatillo. They're kind of tomatillo. So, and then I have a yellow pear tomato. I have straight neck summer squash, scallop yellow bush squash, and then golden midget watermelon. The one thing about Am I Gardener is that they sell out quickly. So last year I didn't get all the varieties I wanted, so this year I purchased in January, and then I purchased again in February. I made 3 different orders to make sure that I got everything I needed, because they are a small family company and they do sell out. My least favorite seed companies are companies like Burpee. I really don't like them. If you don't find what you want at Am I Gardener, I really highly recommend Territorial Seeds. They're in Oregon. And that's where I get my greenhouse plastic and my remake cloth. Okay, I'm going to water it in a little bit to make everything just moist. I don't really want to saturate Okay, so there we have it. I am going to do more experimentation as it settles. One thing I'll probably do eventually is scoop wood chips back, put soil directly in the hole, and then put a transplant in. We'll just play with it, and I like to have multiple different types of gardens going at the same time, and that way if one fails, the other one doesn't. And back home I would do row gardens, I would do hotbeds, I would do straw bale beds, and I would plant directly into the soil just to see which would do best. And without fail, the hotbed always did best. The straw bale did just fine. It was okay. It was as good as putting it in the soil. But as far as tomatoes and squash and everything that I just wanted to be big and maintenance free, it was always the hotbed. And one of the reasons for that is that there's so much room for those roots to spread. It isn't just the surface, and nothing below is compacted. It's composted, carbonous goodness for roots. So that's what I have to say about that. As far as the Keyhole Garden, again, my main concern is that the center will not be heating up. There will not be that main heat source in the middle for bacteria to really get a running start at. Instead, mostly what is, in my opinion, going to be is just a planting medium that gets mildly warm, and with a feeding tube in the middle. I think it's awesome. I think it's brilliant. For cold weather climates and early planting, this is not going to work as well as the hotbed, in my opinion, but that doesn't make it any less cool. So I'm excited to see how it works out, and I have time between now and the end of March, when I leave to go back to Idaho, to kind of play with it a little bit. I'm going to leave these here and let it settle for a bit, and then I'll probably plant more into it when I get back from Mississippi. So if you're going to Mississippi, I can't wait to see you. And make sure to like, share, and subscribe this video. And the reason that I make the videos is because I feel like the information is important, but there's only so much that I can do to spread the word. I make the video, I share it in as many places as I can, but unless you guys share it and get the news out there, then people don't know about Keyhole Garden. Then people don't know about the Keyhole Gardens. They don't know about the hotbeds. They don't know about the deep mulch system. So if you want to spread the word, make sure that you do. There's Pinterest, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's all sorts of places that you can spread the word. And I'm excited to have you guys go along with me as we once again start over. It seems like every time I plant a garden, I leave a garden. If I want to stay in a place, I shouldn't plant a garden. At least that's what it feels like lately. I'm excited for the adventures back in Idaho. We will be doing more with the Rocket Maz heater and the off-grid cabin. You're very patient.
Well, it is a ton of fun, and once you kind of get the rhythm of it, it's just, I mean, it's a joy to come out here and just cut boards. And
it's so pretty. It's so pretty to watch it happen. All right, are we good? Okay.
And they're called stickers just because they stick between the boards.
Should I not put this down then?
Give me just a 2-second for slide, and we'll just work. So we took that tree and we've turned it into...
It's beautiful. So welcome to my studio. I sleep up here too, but it is my crafting space. So I'm gonna see if I can like twirl it around a little bit and let you see it. I have not finished this one wall. I just have... Now this is our buck dragon. So take everything in my bedroom apart again. Just don't want to do it. I get tired. We did move into the house before it was ready, before it was finished, because we just didn't know how we wanted to finish it. But it means that we have dismantled our furniture and our bedrooms and everything else. Every time we have to finish something, we have to take it apart.
All right.
That is way better. I have my trusty, not very good knife. And the rigid board that I could get to fit in my car. They had other rigid board. This stuff is super, super, super messy. But I can already feel a difference in here, up here. Even with the window open, I can feel a difference in the cold that's not coming through now.